Good afternoon, and welcome to Owensboro Community and Technical College, and I want to thank you for joining us for this Common Reading event. My name is Kay Brown, and I'm co-chair along with Tanya Northerner of the Common Reading Committee, and each semester the committee selects a book to be read across our campuses. And this semester we selected The Namesake by Jean-Paul Lahiri, and we've had a really wonderful semester this semester learning about Indian culture, and we've had all kinds of expert help from our own Dr. Veena Salon, the local Indian community, our own Team India supporters, and really we've had a lot of support from the campus and from the community, and we appreciate all of that for our National Endowment for the Humanities Challenge Grant. So today's presentation is a direct result of all this partnership, and we are just really glad that you're all here. If you haven't done so already, please silence your cell phones. Everybody silence your cell phones. And if you do happen to need to leave early, try to exit and be as quiet as possible. The Miss America organization is one of the nation's leading achievement programs and the world's largest provider of scholarship assistance for young women. Last year, the Miss America organization, its state and local organizations, made available more than $45 million in scholarship assistance. Rich in history and social significance, the Miss America organization has maintained a tradition for many decades of empowering young women, American women, to achieve their personal and professional goals, while providing a forum in which to express their opinions, their talents, and their intelligence. This year, over 14,000 young women vied for the coveted title of Miss America and the $50,000 scholarship that goes along with the title. This past September, in Atlantic City, our special guest, a graduate of the University of Michigan, became the first contestant of Indian descent to win the Miss America competition. Over the course of Nina's year of service as Miss America, she will log 20,000 miles per month traveling the country to address an array of audiences on her platform celebrating diversity through cultural competency. She also serves as the official National Goodwill Ambassador for Children's Miracle Network Hospitals. She's the national platform partner of the Miss America organization, and she advocates for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss America 2014, Nina Davraluri.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think my favorite part of the video, well, all my friends tell me the favorite part of their video is seeing my parents and my dad react that way. I've seen it probably hundreds of times now, and it's just very surreal that it actually happened. So thank you for having me. I think I have you guys for quite a while, so I'm going to just say get really comfortable because I'm going to tell you my life story, whether you want to hear it or not. But I'm just going to go ahead and start telling a little bit about myself, the journey that I've had to becoming Miss America, growing up as an Indian American in this country. I was born in Syracuse, New York. My parents are originally from South India. They've been here for 30 years now. A little over 30 years, I think. But throughout my entire growing up, I definitely felt a pull from both sides of being American and Indian, and it was definitely a struggle. And it still, honestly, constantly is to keep that identity. So I was born in Syracuse, and when I was 4, I moved to Oklahoma, a very small, conservative, predominantly white town in Oklahoma called Ada. And that was really where I just didn't understand who I was, because I had so many people, peers and classmates, especially at that young age, asking me if I was Native American. And they would say, well, what tribe are you in? And I would just say, I don't know, because I really didn't. But aside from that, it was also, I remember having a discussion in my classroom. We were talking about slavery one day, and we had this conversation about, black versus white. And I will say this, that we no longer live in a country that is as simple as black and white anymore. But I remember going home that day and asking my mom, well, are we black or white? And she said, well, we're neither. And I said, well, what does that mean? Because physically I felt that, my peers would tell me that I was black and Native American, and then I had my mom telling me something different. So I just didn't understand that there is more than just black and white. And from a religious aspect, that was a whole different conversation because, like I said, I grew up in a predominantly white town. And so many people would ask me, do you believe in God? And I said, well, yes, I do. They said, do you believe in Jesus? And I said, no, but I believe in God. And they said, well, you're going to hell. And I would go home and say, Mom, someone told me this. And the thing is that so many of these conversations or misconceptions could have been corrected if my parents had first and foremost opened a conversation with me about it. And in turn, I would be able to educate my peers about it. And so I really felt that during this time in my life, between the ages of 4 and 10, I really just shied away from my culture because I was embarrassed about it, and I really didn't know who I was. And it wasn't until I really my family moved to Michigan when I was 10, so about middle school through high school. I grew up in the same town, St. Joseph, Michigan, was where I was from. And again, it was kind of a similar situation in that it was a very, once again, predominantly white community. And there were probably 5 Indian kids in my class growing up, one of which was my sister. So there were really 3 other Indian families there. And I just remember, I really think that was the first time, thankfully, I had my sister growing up. We're only 18 months apart, that we really embraced who we were, the Indian side of who we were. And so I had grown up Indian dancing my entire life. I was classically trained in Bharatanatyam, which is a classical form of Indian dance. And if you caught any of Miss America, I did more of a Bollywood dance. But during that time, that's when we had a variety show every year in my middle school and high school. And you better believe every single year, my sister and I had to do an Indian dance because we were so proud of it. And I remember I would go back to India every year growing up, and I would say, Mom, I don't want to dance today. And she said, well, we already paid the dance master, so you have to go. And so, you better believe it, I went, listened to my mom. I'm so happy I did because that turned out to be a huge part of who I am today. And it really became a way of me to express myself and share with others who I was. And so the interesting thing that I remember about that time in my life is that although there were other Indian kids in my classroom, other Indian peers, they really shied away from who they were, and they were really embarrassed kind of their culture as well. And I think I had already gone through that previously, that I was able to take that and educate people because I had my sister and share our talent and talk about it. But it was just interesting that they had felt that sense of similar embarrassment that I had felt when I was much younger. And I remember once I got to high school, I always felt welcomed with my, I suppose, Indianness, but all my friends would say, oh my goodness, you're such an Oreo. And if you don't know what that means, it means brown on the outside, white on the inside. And I was so happy that they said that because I just remember thinking, oh, thank God I fit in some way, shape, or form. And I predominantly had a group of white friends, and I was so proud of that because I still felt like I was accepted, but still could kind of have the best of both worlds at the time. But it certainly wasn't that way. But when I was in high school was when I was first exposed to the Miss America organization. And I started competing in the Miss America's Outstanding Teen program, which is meant to be a feeder into the Miss America system. And so when I was 16, I entered Miss Michigan's Outstanding Teen. And what many people don't know about the Miss America organization is that we're first and foremost a scholarship program. We make over $45 million available in scholarship money each year for young women across the country. So I was blessed enough, thankfully, that my parents were able to pay for a portion of my education, but I knew that I had to pay for another significant portion of my education. And for me, University of Michigan was the only school that I wanted to go to, and I couldn't imagine going to any other university because I had grown up in that environment. Some of my family went to Michigan. I'd been to the Big House, which is the football stadium, and if any of you follow college football, it's just an incredible experience. So I wanted to go to a school with a very expensive price tag, and so when I started competing, I won the title of Miss Michigan's Outstanding Teen, and then went on to become first runner-up at Miss America's Outstanding Teen, which is the worst position in the world because you're second. You get so close, but it's so far. But through that competition, I won $25,000 in scholarship money. And with that money, I was able to thankfully graduate debt-free from the University of Michigan. But I remember when I placed first runner-up, I did a Bollywood dance for my talent, and I said, I remember talking to my family, and I said, I really think I didn't win because I was Indian. I really think that was somewhat of a barrier for me, and I really felt that way. But hindsight is 20/20, I suppose, standing here today now. But I just remember thinking, gosh, will this organization ever be able to have a representative like Miss America of an ethnic background? And that was always a question in the back of my mind. And I think one of the biggest challenges that I had during this time was, of course, yes, I was happy to be participating in the Miss America organization, this iconic, I suppose, competition. And although in high school people thought it was very exciting and really cool, I think one of the most difficult things I had was really assimilating with my peers in high school in terms of my family. Because my parents had a very difficult time raising children in America as Indians. Culturally, there are a lot of barriers. And, I remember in high school, my curfew was 9 p.m. My year I graduated. Graduation day of high school, my curfew was 9 p.m., and I just wasn't able to hang out with my friends. Things like sleepovers were unheard of for me. And yes, I did get to go to homecoming and prom and things like that, which I'm very happy for. But I think the most difficult part of it was really this idea and concept of dating. And I think dating is difficult for any parent, which I'm sure we can all relate to. But it was especially more difficult for mine because my parents had an arranged marriage, and they didn't understand this, I suppose, concept. They knew that it existed, but for me to actually do it was something that was so hard for them to understand. And I've been dating a guy, for 2 years now, and I wasn't able to really even talk to them until about 6 months ago. And I really genuinely wish I had opened that conversation before, because as cliche as it might sound, it's definitely made our relationship stronger. And by no means was it easy. I actually remember telling them on my birthday, because people can't get mad at you on your birthday. And I said, I've been seeing this person, and I would really like for him, for you to get to know him in the way that I do. And so I remember bringing him out to dinner, and it was just the most uncomfortable dinner in the world. But because of that, because I started that conversation, my parents really have learned to be more accepting of it. And of course, like I said, it's still a continuous battle in my household, but I'm really thankful that I was able to open the conversation, and more importantly, that my parents were willing to listen. And I think you would all be surprised to how much your parents really know you better than you think, and that they are willing to listen if you present your case in in an eloquent way. But when I went to college, that completely changed, because going to a university such as University of Michigan was a huge school. We had 7,000 people alone in my graduating class. So you can imagine I was just introduced to this whole new Indian community that I had never had before. And these were all people that I connected with so well because they all had the same similar experiences with me, whether it be dating, whether it be, feeling this pressure of, you have to be a doctor or an engineer, and that's the only thing that you have to do because, those are the best careers, which is completely not true. But it's definitely that stigma within our family that we are pushed towards those fields from a very young age. And so we would all just connect so well, whether it also be with my Indian dancing. I was able to join a dance group on campus and keep that up. And it was just this newfound love of my culture that I had never had before, with a community that was both Indian and American. And I think there was a part of me that really didn't want to let go of the Oreo inside me, and so I joined a sorority. And I also was really involved with the Michigan Student Assembly, which is our student government on campus. And now looking back at it, yes, I was involved with so many different organizations, but I never made the effort, or many of us really never made the effort to hang out together, I suppose. I had my Indian friends, I had my sorority friends, I had my other friends with different groups, but none of us hung out together. And I really wish that the leaders of those organizations had made the effort to, as a campus, really build a more inclusive campus, because we were all so separated, and that wasn't necessarily the best learning environment, because in the real world, you have to work with different people of different backgrounds, whether it be from an educational standpoint, from a business standpoint. you have to be able to connect with people with all different people, because like I said, we no longer live in a country that's as simple as black and white anymore. And regardless of if you agree with someone's beliefs or not, you can still form that open conversation, that respectful conversation to be able to communicate with others. And that's the most important thing that I promote this year. And I suppose I have to get to my post-college experience in terms of my platform and everything, because I took about a 5-year hiatus from the Miss America organization. So I competed as a teen, went to college, got my degree, graduated with my degree in brain behavior and cognitive science. And once I graduated was kind of when I decided, well, maybe I kind of want to give this Miss America thing a shot. And definitely, like I mentioned, scholarship was certainly an aspect of why I chose to compete. But there was also many different facets to this job. And this truly is a job. You can ask me a bunch of questions about it later. But so for me, I decided that I wanted to apply to graduate schools, and I had zero money to pay for my education. I was at the point where I either had to take student loans, I took some time off, did research, worked, and I just didn't have the resources or funds to pay for it. And mom and dad were not going to pay for it either. So I started competing again. And I competed for the first time for Miss New York 2 years ago. And the first time I placed second runner-up. And that was really challenging for me because I really felt like it was the Indian thing that was holding me back. And I had a choice to compete in Michigan or New York. And for me, I wanted to compete in New York because that went with my package and my brand. And when I say that, I mean that every contestant in the Miss America organization is required to have a personal platform. And mine was celebrating diversity through cultural competency. So this is something that I've been promoting essentially my entire life, but officially for 3 years I've had this platform. And I remember when I started competing, after I'd placed second runner-up, I'd said to my sister, she said, why are you competing again? What does this mean to you? Where can this really get you? And I said, my sister's name is Mina, I know it's really cute. And I said, Mina, I truly believe that in the next 5 years, Miss America will crown an ethnic girl because it is so timely and so relevant. And that's going to be me. Because I knew I could very well do the job. It was just a matter of marketing myself, packaging myself, and putting it in the sense where, yes, I'm Indian, but I'm also representative of who the girl next door is today. Because Miss America has always had that icon of the girl next door. She's always been that relevant, attainable role model that people can look up to. And for me, I really believed that the girl next door was evolving as the diversity in America evolved. And for me to have this opportunity for not only myself, but it was really about every young girl watching Miss America, not even girl, person really, watching Miss America on television, and for them to finally be able to say, wow, this year, Miss America actually looks like me. She's not that stereotypical blonde hair, blue-eyed girl. And that's what this was about, to send that message about not only Miss America, but our country is evolving with the amount of diversity that we have. And so that was a really proud moment for me to obviously win this title, but it was really challenging in the sense because essentially 15,000 young women in this country competed for my job across the country. So how was I going to set myself apart from these 15,000 people? So when I came back to Miss New York this year, so many people, I asked about my talent, my interview. So to give a little background, I'll rewind. We compete in 5 phases. And the first is the interview competition. And that's a 10-minute interview with a panel of 7 judges. And they can ask you any question is fair game, from your platform to current events to personal questions, anything. And then we also compete in a talent competition. And your talent can literally be anything. I've seen people where they've done a comedic act to how to pack a suitcase. So your talent can be anything. And then we have swimsuit, evening gown, and an onstage question. And so when I came back to Miss New York, I had asked people about my talent, and I had always done a Bollywood dance. Like I said, when I started competing, there was no question that I was going to do a Bollywood dance because it was who I was. And when I talked to a couple of my judges, they said, we really think that you should, if you're really serious, change your talent. Because if you're really serious about winning Miss New York or Miss America, change your talent, because Bollywood will never win. And for me, I thought about it because I can sing. I'm a much better dancer than I am a singer. But again, going back to this marketing and packaging, it just didn't feel right to change who I was to win something, because it wouldn't have meant as much to me if I didn't stay true to myself. And so we all know that, yes, I did the Bollywood dance, and it worked out well. But it was just so meaningful to me to have that moment on the Miss America stage, to share a different type of talent that had never been done before. And so after I won Miss America, I knew it was going to be a monumental year, just because it was the first time someone of an ethnic background was winning. And it was interesting that 30 years ago, when Vanessa Williams won, this is a fun fact, because my local title was Miss Syracuse, that's where I was from. Vanessa Williams also had the same local title of Miss Syracuse. We both went on to win Miss New York and 2 very historic Miss Americas. And so that was just really uncanny that happened. But she received a similar response when she won, in terms of this negative kind of comments, backlash, because of her race. And I received a very similar response, I think on a much larger level with social media now, because of who I was. And it was not only people saying things like I could physically, I read my Twitter feed, who doesn't? So to have that happen, it just goes to show that 30 years ago, yes, certainly I think our country has evolved since then, but even though that it's happening today, we have so much further to go. And so to have this platform, to have this avenue, and to turn that into a positive discussion is really what I'm looking forward to during my year of service. And I really would like this to be more of a conversation than me just speaking. So I really want to open the floor up to having a questions, conversation, things about the job of Miss America, what I'm doing with my platform culturally. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts and getting to know a lot of you. So I say let's get started.
My question is with regard to your training for Bharatanatyam.
Yeah.
Every year you went back to India during summertime and trained. How are you keeping up with this here? Do you have a trainer in New York or?
With my dance?
Yes.
Well, actually, every year my classical training took place in India. I never had a teacher in the U.S. Just because I was from such a small town. So we didn't have that. But really, I learned a lot through my college dance team. All of these girls had been so classically trained. And we would do fusion pieces with our classical training and Bollywood and American dance, too, because I also did ballet, jazz, tap as well. And so that's, I would say, a large part of my training took place in college as well. But even when I started competing, I choreographed all of my pieces until this one was when I trained with the Bollywood choreographer.
We have a lot of undecided students, and they're searching for a passion. So like you obviously have a passion for this cultural competency and your STEM education. So what advice would you have for the students out here who are undecided, who are lost and seeking that passion and that fire for their life?
Try everything and anything. You will be surprised as to, maybe taking a class that you like. Just try, expose yourself to everything and don't rule anything out. My life certainly wasn't, decided in 1 minute or one night. It's been a long lifetime of experiences that has brought me to where I am today. So try everything, keep your options open, and it's absolutely okay to change, your major or this or that, because at the end of the day, it's what you have to do for the rest of your life. That's your career. So make sure, to just find different, fields.
So you said that you were in a lot of different pageants, and you said how the judges ask a lot of questions that just kind of come from anywhere in interviews. Were there any questions that you weren't prepared for that you had trouble answering?
There's always questions you're never prepared for, because the thing about an interview for me is that I've always believed that you can walk into any interview, regardless of it's a competition interview, a job interview, whatever it may be, TV, and you can control that interview. You can say what you want to say if you spin it the correct way. There's always a way to talk about what you want to talk about. That being said, yes, I mean, no one can prepare you for every question out in the world because that's not possible. But to take a second and to think about it, just even taking a few seconds, think about it and give your honest opinion. Because people, first and foremost, everywhere you go, people are people are people. So treat them as such, because to have a genuine, honest conversation with whoever it may be, even if it's person interviewing you, is much more appreciated than trying to give a canned what you think is the right answer.
I was wondering how long you prepared after you decided to do Miss New York, because I've competed in local pageants, and I've thought about trying for Miss Kentucky, but I know it's like a big deal.
Yeah, it's a job. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Miss America is a job. Everyone wants to win Miss America. Not everyone wants the job of Miss America, and those are two very separate things. And so definitely, I just didn't have the time to compete in college. And my priorities were different in college. This wasn't something that aligned with what I wanted to do at the time. And so for me, I had to take, I competed later, much later, when I was 23, 24. I'm 24 now, opposed to competing when I was 20, 21, because I just couldn't have handled it, the responsibility. And because of all the experiences I've had in college, the education I've had, I feel like I've been able to do such a hopefully good job, by the end of the year, great job, as Miss America, than I would have been able to do when I was much younger. So you definitely have to prepare for it. Working extensively with my platform, I started my work with my platform in college. I partnered with different service organizations, the YMCA, YWCA, to eliminate racism, empower women. So a lot of it is service work, and many people don't realize that that's what the job of Miss America is to be a spokesperson for different service organizations and be able to communicate effectively with people. So to hone those skills in my undergrad is what I learned. To be a leader is what I learned through all the organizations I took part in, and that's what helped me prepare for this.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank you for coming to our small town.
My pleasure.
And our campus. I hope all the students are enjoying this. I'm one of those STEMS teachers.
Oh, great.
And so I'm dying to know what your graduate school plans are and what your life goals are after you finish Miss America.
Right. Well, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to win Miss America and then start med school right away. But that actually physically can't happen. I don't finish my year of service, is what I called it, is what I mentioned, until the end of September next year. So most graduate schools start early August, September, so that just can't happen. So I have a year after I finish my duties as Miss America to explore other opportunities. I definitely see myself going back to graduate school. Hopefully medical school. Right now I'm actually dabbling at MD, MBA programs. I think being in that business mindset is also important, especially having a role such as this title. So many opportunities have been opened. But definitely getting a graduate degree, I think especially nowadays, is so, so important, and important to continue that higher education, which many of the girls in the Miss America organization were doing. We had girls who were in DO school, people who had masters from Stanford. My first runner-up, Miss California, did her master's at Stanford, as well as people who are in PT schools, PA schools. So all of us are continuing our education, and many of us in STEM. And so to have not only myself be a part of STEM education as Miss America, but to have many of our state title holders promote that aspect as well really gives us more backing to the organization from that scholastic standpoint.
How do you popularly say your last name?
Davalori.
Is your last name common?
I've actually only met one other family with the last name Davalori. I've always gotten, your name sounds Greek or Hispanic or this and that. So I think Nina is more of a very versatile name. But, yeah.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Two questions. Number one, what led you to brain, behavior, and cognitive science? And secondly, in the interest of cultural diversity, would you ever cheer for the Spartans?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely not. My degree, fun fact though, I actually will be going back as Miss America to the Michigan-Ohio State game on Thanksgiving weekend, which I'm really excited about. But my degree was in brain behavior and cognitive science. I was actually undecided until my junior year of college. I had no clue what I wanted to do. And then I took, everyone takes intro psych, well, at least in my school. It was kind of one of the more popular classes. And, I wasn't really thrilled of it after that. But then I actually ended up taking more cognitive science, psychology of creativity, personality psychology, things like that. And I found it fascinating to learn how people think and why they say the things they do. So for me, it was just really interesting to learn that aspect of, who we are as people.
Preparing to be Miss America, it can't be done for free. How did you fund this?
Well, actually, first of all, let me say that there's a difference between Miss America and any other competition out there. So many people get Miss America and Miss USA often confused. They're two very separate organizations. My boss is not Donald Trump, so I don't know what he's like. And so Miss America is more service and scholarship based. And it actually does not cost anything to enter a local competition. And every single young woman who even competes in a local, so before you can even compete for Miss New York or Miss State, you have to win a local title based on your region. My local title was Miss Syracuse because that was where I was from, and it costs no money. And every contestant, whether you win, lose, draw, you walk away with some form of scholarship money that will be paid to your college. So it's not just you're handed a cash award. Everyone knows that it is being paid for college. And actually, it was really nice because some of my scholarship money that I won, I was able to put towards a Kaplan class when I took the MCAT. So it's like a $3,000 class, and I was able to put it towards that as well. So it can be used for any type of education, so long as it's education. So I actually won in a $30 dress from Macy's. I didn't want to put in more money than I was making, in my sense. If I was going to make an investment, it had to be smart. So I was very creative with what I had.
Hi, I just wondered, and this is a really, really silly question, but was the Miss America thing kind of like Miss Congeniality, the movie? So, yeah.
Did we go out and get drunk? No. Absolutely not. No, it's completely different from what any media makes it out to be. And to compete with women who are essentially so motivated, so driven, so smart and educated. I mean, when I was at Miss New York, I was competing with a girl who went to Harvard, who graduated from Harvard, who worked for Goldman Sachs. And in my mind, I was like, oh, excuse me. We're all very intelligent, smart, beautiful young women. And to be in that league and to be in that role, it really pushes you to be the best person that you can be. Because I knew if I was going to represent, not win, but represent these young women, I had to be the best Nina that I could possibly be. So it's not like Miss Congeniality by any means. We don't have people backstage with us. Everyone thinks that we have like all these elaborate dressing people and hair and makeup. We do our own hair, our own makeup. We dress ourselves. So it's a very different environment backstage, and we actually all help each other get ready. So it's a nice camaraderie too.
Hi, Nina. This is kind of away from the Miss America. Okay. We're doing the book, The Namesake, as you know, and in that book, it was talking about how that boy had two different names, a good name and then the name for here. Did we change your name to Nina? Americans did, or do you have a good name?
No, my name is Nina. I didn't change it. That was never a question. Actually, though, I never had a middle name. My parents just never gave me one. So that was kind of sad growing up because I so badly wanted a middle name. But no, I never felt the pressure to change my name. My sister's name is actually Meenakshi, which is the name of a Hindu goddess. My family is Hindu. But she goes by Meena for short. But many of my friends, too, have never, that I know of at least, have really felt pressure to change their name. Of course, there's obviously people who pronounce it differently, but that's just, that's understandable.
I could see from the video with you dancing that you actually have big passion for it.
Thank you.
And I was just wondering if you would ever think about doing Dancing with the Stars.
Oh. Yeah, if they'll have me. Yeah, why not? I think it was just, thank you for saying that, though, because it was really special. Because this was the first time ever, like I mentioned, that Bollywood had ever been performed on a stage like Miss America. And to know that the entire Indian community, people of different backgrounds, were watching this and finally being able to relate to a different type of Miss America was really special. And I remember just crying almost through the end of my talent because I knew that it was just that moment for my community as a whole.
Hi, Nina. Hi. I wondered if you would say a little bit about the cult of beauty and its connection with the Miss America pageant, or the Miss America contest, because I think just hearing you speak changes people's ideas about this whole organization.
Thank you. Absolutely. And as title holders, as local, state, and national title holders, we often walk into a room with a stigma. And that's the reality of the situation, because people see a beautiful girl and they automatically think that stereotype that we're not smart, we're not intelligent. And then when we start speaking, I've obviously seen that look of shock on people's faces that yes, I am actually articulate. I can have a conversation. But it is. We deal with that every day. And the best way that we can break that stereotype is by making those interactions with people, with students, with my job as Miss America. I'm literally one day with kindergartners, and then the next day I'll be meeting the president, literally, and everyone in between. So yes, many people definitely see the swimsuit competition and think that that's what we're all about. But like I mentioned, what many people don't see is that 10-minute private interview. And that's truly where Miss America is won, in that interview room. Because when I'm out speaking with people, my job is by no means walking around in a swimsuit. It's about being articulate, being intelligent, and being able to communicate with a wide group of people.
Hi, Nina. Myself, like many others, watched you win the competition in September, and we were very excited that a person of a different ethnic background broke the mold of the Miss America competition.
Thank you.
But how did you deal with the backlash of the people that said you didn't deserve it because you weren't, I guess, the stereotypical mold?
Yeah, I deal with it every day. Yes, initially it was a much larger backlash, but the silver lining that happened with all of that was that sadly it was something that I experienced when I won the title of Miss New York on a much smaller scale. I had people call me a terrorist as Miss New York. I had people post pictures on Instagram and social media of, people in headscarves targeted towards me, which is a whole different, misconception. And I remember sitting down with my mom and sister, who are two of my very close friends, and sitting down with them saying, why is this happening? I've worked so hard for this. My platform is celebrating diversity through cultural competency. I was born in Syracuse, and I've always viewed myself as first and foremost American. So for this to happen was very shocking, because these were people who went to college, who were educated people making these accusations, saying these statements. And in my mind, it was just intolerable. And hindsight is truly 20/20, because if that hadn't happened as Miss New York, I don't think I would have been able to handle it as Miss America when it did happen on a much larger scale. But truly, the positive, really outweighed the negative. For every one negative tweet, comment, or post, I received hundreds, and really now thousands, of positive words of encouragement and support from younger generations, which made me happy, from older generations as well. And so to now create that positive, enlightening discussion is really incredible.
Another question. Yeah. I'm from Florida originally, and I moved to Kentucky, and I noticed there wasn't a lot of diversity here. So I've tried since high school to be involved and get people to know that, accepting other people and it's cool. So I'm also involved in SGA here. So with that said, I just want to let you know you're a role model to a lot of people like myself, and really proud of you. And yeah, thanks for being here. And what do you think of Owensboro?
Thank you. That is so sweet. I think it's great. I flew in last night, and they're like, where do you want to eat? I'm like, Chick-fil-A? So we went through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru, and it was delightful because I don't get to have Chick-fil-A very often.
Whenever they called your name, what was running through your mind whenever you won?
Oh, my goodness. There was nothing running through my mind because it goes by so quickly. I mean, as contestants, it's literally you have a minute between commercial breaks to change. The night just flies by. It's one thing after the next. And I remember standing there holding hands, feeling like hours, but just, I remember they interviewed us like right before, which was totally out of the blue. They didn't even give us a heads up. And just thinking that regardless of what happens, both of us are going to make history. To stand with Crystal, Miss California, who is also Asian American, it was going to be a monumental year regardless. And to be called, to be chosen, it just happened. I mean, so surreal. All I could think of was my parents. I was like, oh, God, they must be freaking out.
Hi, Nina. How are you?
Good.
I just want to ask you, what first made you want to compete in a beauty pageant?
Oh, my goodness. Well, when I was a teen, there was no swimsuit competition, so I was like, great, sign me up. When I was a Miss, it was a lot different. But like I mentioned, the scholarship money, there was a talent portion of competition, which sets the Miss America organization apart from anyone else. And that was really important to me, to be able to perform. I've always been a performer. But I remember coming back as a Miss and knowing that there was a swimsuit competition, which was culturally very difficult in my house, because my mom to this day will say, don't post any pictures of yourself in a swimsuit. I'm like, Mom, have you Googled me? Like, it's out there, sorry. So it's still kind of difficult. But when that happened, I myself had such a struggle in terms of health and lifestyle fitness. I lost over 55 pounds through my journey from college until now, and I struggled briefly with an eating disorder. So it was a very proud moment for me to be in my swimsuit at Miss America, because I'd worked so hard. I worked my hiney off, literally. It's smaller. And so to have that moment and to finally live that balanced lifestyle, not only physically, but mentally, socially, emotionally, spiritually, has helped me in many facets of my life, not only in one phase.
Hi. A lot of people here know my children. They are beneficiaries of the STEM program, and they always struggle with accepting themselves and the talents that they were given. And so I didn't know if you had any advice for them first. And then my little one would like to know what it was like to be in front of all of those people.
Yeah, you know, I always say be yourself, and that is so much easier said than done. And especially in today's society, it's so easy to lose yourself if you don't know who you are. So know who you are, love who you are, and more importantly, stand up for who you are, because that's what makes all of us different. In terms of being in front of so many people, you know, I didn't even think about that, because we have, you know, the only people that really matter are the judges in our minds, because there's 7 judges and they will forever change your life. And so whenever I'm on stage, I'm just looking at them, those 7 people. I don't think about anyone else. So it didn't even hit me that when we found out that there were about 10 million viewers on ABC that night, and when I was getting recognized, you know, on the streets and stuff, I said, how do people know? And it's like, oh, wait, people actually watch.
Hello. Hi. I have a question. How did your parents initially react to you competing?
Well, when I was a teen, it was really different. They thought it was just kind of like this extracurricular activity. Great, you know, you won scholarship money, and then they thought I was done with it. And then when I started competing again, it was very different, because they were always supportive, but not necessarily encouraging, and that's a nice way of putting it. And so it was really a large part of it due to the fact that they wanted me to go to graduate school right away. They said, why are you taking the time to do this? What are you going to benefit from it? And the thing is that I think as Indian parents, we're often pressured to, you know, fit a certain mold, get your education right away. And for me, I had a very small window to do Miss America. I mean, it's between 18 and 24, and you are done. And so I started competing when I was 23, and I had 2 years to do this. And what it really came down to is if I hadn't done it, I would always wonder what if. And I never wanted to live my life regretting something or wondering what if I had done that. And so I just toughed it out and said, I'm going to do this. And I'm glad I did, because now it's very different in my household. And I don't think they really truly thought I had a legitimate job until I met the president. And then they're like, oh, tell us about it. So.
I'm with my daughter today. She's 12 and very self-assured. I'm so proud of her. But she wants to be a model. She's already 5', 6.5" at 12. And she's going to go into the pageant world next year and do her first pageant. So what advice do you have for her just starting out at this age, especially if that's something she chooses to pursue?
Well, my story is very different. Everyone has a different story. But I never went into pageant world because I wanted to model. That wasn't ever really my goal. But the thing is that I think the biggest advice for me, especially as a teen, I think it was more difficult. I was 16 when I competed, and it's different for every young girl based on your maturity level. But you have to have the humility or the confidence to know that you can win, the humility to know that only one girl can. And that's a very difficult concept to really grasp when you're there, when you've put in the work, when you've put in hours of work, of training, of reading, and everything that goes into this. I mean, it's very difficult to understand that concept. So to know that everything happens for a reason, it truly does, and it might not happen the way you think it's going to happen. Because I can tell you, speaking from Miss Florida's experience, who became one of my very close friends, she tore her ACL the day of her talent preliminary rehearsal at Miss America. And she will say this, she said, you know, things will happen in the way they're meant to happen, because I never envisioned myself on the Miss America stage walking in my gown in flats. I never imagined that I would perform my talent with a brace on my leg in an immense amount of pain. But it was meant to happen the way it did. And she finished third runner-up, and I mean, it's just a very difficult concept, like I said, to grasp, and there's certainly a maturity level that comes with it. And once you understand what this program is about, that's when things will fall into place, because it's not about winning. It's about being the best title holder in your community and making a difference that you can.
I'll just wrap up. We are celebrating India this year, and the campuses, all three of the campuses and community, we have read the book Namesake, right. And you have seen that movie too. I have. Could you draw some kind of connection between your life, your parents' life, and the book Namesake?
Well, I will say that for my life, that book was a little extreme. That's not how I really grew up. But I think one thing I can somewhat resonate with is the character when he's specifically struggling with his identity. You know, he's dating an American, he loves this lifestyle that they live, and really tries to shy away from his own tradition and heritage and roots. And there was definitely a time period when I went through that. I would definitely say, middle school, high school, I did not want to do traditional things that my family would make me do. But I think that's everyone, whether it be a traditional thing or a family event. I mean, I think we all struggle with certain things that our parents expect us to do, and that's only normal. But to really finally be able to come into my own and embrace my culture and share that with others has been so amazing. And to stand here, because it's not only meaningful for the Indian community, but for all communities that now are a part of America, and what makes America what it is today. And that's what's so great, is because the beauty about the American dream is that regardless of your race, your gender, your socioeconomic status, you can achieve anything that you want through hard work. And I certainly feel like standing here today that I'm achieving a small part of my American dream. And so it's an honor to represent all of you, essentially.
Thank you, Nina.